listening to the Insightful Nutrition Podcast, the podcast that highlights creators and innovators of algae-friendly and alternative products, businesses, and services, sharing their entrepreneurial journey. I am your host, Nicole Farquharson. Let's get the show rolling. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Insightful Nutrition. And I just want to say a big welcome to anyone who is listening to an episode for the first time or you've just subscribed to the podcast. I just want to say to you, welcome, welcome, welcome. And for those who are continually listening to the podcast as well. Now, before we get into introducing our guests for today, I just want to give a big shout out to the Shan man, who is also known as Shannon Hernandez. I have so much great respect for him as a podcaster, and he has tons of experience in radio broadcasting, and he has carried that experience into podcasting. He has given tons of advice on podcasting on his YouTube channel, Shannon Hernandez, and you can check him out on the links below in the show notes. So Shannon Hernandez, just want to say big up to you for encouraging people to start podcasting. Now, let's get into our introduction of our guest today, Lisa Ragan, the founder and owner of Safely Delicious, LLC. She has been cooking allergen-free since 2004 as a single divorced mom of 4 children with multiple food allergies. Not wanting her kids or anyone else with food allergies to feel excluded at school, birthday parties, social events, and other events, she created snacks that looked and tasted similar to what others were eating, but still delicious and free of the food allergens they had to avoid. Inspired by her children and encouraged by her co-workers, she decided in November 2015 to start the company Safely Delicious and to sell the snacks that she had been making for her children. So Safely Delicious products are free of the top 11 food allergens such as wheat, dairy, peanuts, tree nuts, soy, egg, fish, shellfish, sesame, mustard, sulfites, and are manufactured and packaged in a dedicated licensed commercial facility free of these food allergens. Safely Delicious snack bites are sweet and crunchy, gluten-free, vegan, cholesterol-free, low in sodium, an excellent source of iron, and has no artificial colors, no artificial flavors, and no preservatives. Initially, after 2 years ago, their snacks started being sold in retail and grocery store locations around Kansas City, and now they're sold throughout the United States and in addition to other online businesses and their website, safelydelicious.com, word of mouth, and local vendor events. During the last 12 months, Safely Delicious has received the following awards and recognitions. The 2020 NOVA Award by the Overland Park Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Council, 2019 Woman-Owned Business of the Year, Manufacturing Firm by the Kansas Department of Commerce, 2019 Emerging Business of the Year by the SBA, Kansas Small Business Development Center, 2019 Class of Inspirational Influencers by the International Association of Women First Place winner Shirley Mack's Pitch Finale by the Women's Business Development Center, and 2018 Overland Park Small Business Person of the Year by Alignable. Now, Spoken Inc. has just verified Safely Delicious on January 13, 2020, as part of the Spoken's Verified Brand Program. Now, that is the only food allergy platform combining verified packaging, labels, facility information, certifications, or proprietary 22-question allergy, facts and question plus allergy community reviews. Although she has achieved success as a mother and a businesswoman, she prays whenever she is stressed. She loves pizza and Italian food, uses QuickBooks to manage her budget and finances, and her favorite dream trip would be to visit Italy. So, without further ado, let's dive right into the conversation with Lisa Ragan. Hi, Lisa. How are you doing today?
All right, how are you, Nicole?
I am good. Thank you so much. Today's a windy day today.
Yeah, our weather is pretty overcast right now. It's I want to say it's spring-like because I guess in the spring we get those spring showers. We're still waiting
Yeah.
for our May flowers, so
Yeah.
it's kind of gloomy and dreary today here.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, who is Lisa Ragan before she became the founder of Safely Delicious?
So I am a mom of four children, and I'm actually a single parent now. I became divorced several years ago, and I as a child, we moved around a lot. So I'm originally from New York, from the East Coast, and that's where my parents are originally from. And so growing up, we moved a lot. And I lived in Florida, I lived in Idaho, obviously lived in New York. And really, I think as a result of moving a lot as a kid and feeling like I was always having to start over in making friendships and meeting people and that sort of thing, I think that just adds to my personality in that I'm very much an outgoing person and very much a person who um, I do seek to, if I'm in a social situation and I see people who don't look like they're being included or, are feeling a little awkward or maybe feeling, they appear to be maybe almost singled out or not kind of part of the situation, I tend to naturally um, seek to include those people or, invite them, kind of bring them into the fold, if you will, just because I know how myself always having to start over in social circles with different schools. I think I went to 8 different schools in my 12 years or 13 years of going to school. And so I think having that as part of my personality has really, I guess, helped me throughout my life and with different transitions in regards to like my background when I was in school. I used to love to do speech, debate, theater, track, all those great fun things when I was a kid, and then it kind of stayed with me as into my adulthood and had a plan to wanted to be an actress. And so I started college on a theater scholarship and then felt like I was instead being called to be a social worker, and I started pursuing that path and transferred colleges. Started at Boise State University and then transferred to University of Kansas and ended up getting my degree in sociology. But then interestingly, once I got into the workforce, I unfortunately was not able to find jobs in that field that I sought to be part of. And I my career path instead was a lot of things related to sales and marketing, community relations, community outreach, and things like that. And then after probably while I was, I guess, doing that kind of stuff pre-children, I we moved when I had gotten married. We moved a couple of different times, and one of the last jobs I had before I became a stay-at-home mom was I did end up eventually getting into the nonprofit world, and I was working for a nonprofit agency. It was called the Health Partnership Clinic, and they would provide health medical services to people that were low to no income in the county that I lived in. And so I was hired by them to do relations, community outreach stuff, and was in charge of their fundraiser that year that I worked with them and worked with the volunteers and all that kind of stuff. And then started having kids back in 1997 and then stayed home for about 17 years raising my kids until life took a different path. And And now we are where we are now.
17 years.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, that's
So
so amazing.
my oldest son, I have four kids, like I said. So my oldest son, he is 22, and my daughter is 20. And then I have another son who will be 17 coming up in May. And then I have my youngest son, he is 13. So had them spread out a bit.
How did you come up with Safely Delicious?
So that's kind of a funny and interesting story. So my children all have multiple food allergies, and that was realized back in 2004. That's when we had received the first diagnosis that my third child, my 16-year-old, was severely allergic to soy and peanut. So since 2004, I would have to basically shop and look at everything a little bit differently when I realized he was allergic to certain ingredients. And my youngest, a couple years after my 16-year-old was diagnosed, my youngest was diagnosed with gluten, dairy, peanuts, tree nuts, soy, and egg. So we had a challenge at trying to find foods that were free of multiple food allergens. So I used to be very creative because I didn't want my kids to feel left out and excluded at birthday parties and school activities and social events and things like that, because they tended to be excluded because most of the food and snacks that kids were eating, my kids couldn't eat. So I was always looking to be creative at trying to make things that would look and taste similar so my kids wouldn't feel left out. So then we jump ahead years later when I had to go back to work full time after my divorce. And in 2015, I had taken a batch of one of my snacks I make, which is now known as my classic bites. I had taken a batch of that to work. And at the church where I worked at St. Michael's, the ladies, my church lady friends, that I had purchased this snack at the store. And I was like, no. And I explained to them, kind of the backstory to the whole product and everything was free of and the whole thing. And they couldn't believe that my products were free of like all the different food allergens. And so they were like, you should sell this. And I was like, okay. And at that time, I had actually been trying to discern and pray about how I was going to financially support myself, both short term and long term. And so that same day, I was like, what would I even call this one product? Like, what would I even call my company? What would And so that day, I ended up coming up with the name Safely Delicious, like totally that day on the same, it was kind of like, okay, well, my one little product is both safe and delicious. And so I was like, I think Safely Delicious is what we're going to call this company, this business. And it was serious. It was as basic as that. And then I spent that day going online and capturing the name on all different platforms so that I could claim it as mine for whatever this was going to turn out to be. And so that's how Safely Delicious was born.
So, carry me through the process of the structure of Safely Delicious. How did you go about the licensing, the marketing, distribution, promotion, and finances?
Well, it's been a journey. I'm still on that journey. One of the key things to just start saying right off in the beginning for myself was I started during my first year, I would register to be part of every and any local event that I could be, any little church bazaar, any little arts and crafts fair, any little school fundraiser event, whatever it was, I was signing up for everything probably during that first 12 to 18 months, just so I could, start getting my product out there. It wasn't really, though. I want to say, so initially when I started my product, because being food, I was not going to be able to make my product in a one of those like kitchens that people can, an incubator kitchen or any of those rented spaces, because of cross contamination issues. So initially, I started making the product in my personal kitchen. And I was allowed to do that initially because I was selling it um, to non-retail type businesses. I was selling it online and I was selling it, at these local events and that sort of thing. But once I knew and finally got to the point where I was ready to really start going after trying to sell it in retail space, I knew I was going to have to move out of my personal kitchen and start making it in a licensed commercial facility or licensed commercial kitchen. So getting to that point took me about a year because, like I said, there were no spaces that I was finding that I could make our product safe because our products are free of the top 11 food allergens. So that was that was just required. That was a mandatory thing in order for us to have our product be what it is. So then, so anyway, so what happened was I was at a local event and I had several different people at that event coming up to me that were also vendors and were so gracious and wonderful about sharing with me their connections and their knowledge and their information. And they were food type products too, different than mine, very different, but still were in the food space. And they then shared with me that, at some point I'm going to have to get UPC codes and I'm going to have that on my packaging. And then I had someone else, telling me about different network groups for food manufacturers in Kansas City. And so they were inviting me to participate in those online groups. And then there was another local business that was, really gracious at wanting to help, put once I got into a commercial space that they would, be interested in putting my products in their little boutique store and little things like that. But what was great with that one business is they started telling me about trade shows and different places where I could be more nationally getting my products out there. So from all those little connections of learning about UPC codes and learning about, these network groups and stuff, I was able to then, like I said, that was around the 1 year mark for us. I was able to, I met somebody, I kind of put it out there in one of our group feeds or group messages asking if anybody knew anybody who had a licensed commercial space that I could rent that was allergy friendly to make our products. And it just so happened there was someone in the group who had her own licensed commercial space that she would manufacture her. She used to make allergy friendly baking mixes and other types of other types of products and sell them locally. And so she was wonderful. And we met like the next day. And right when it was my 1 year anniversary of my business is when I think met this woman. It was crazy, the timing. And I then was now going to have a space that I could actually go to out of my personal kitchen and make my products. And so started doing that, which then that allowed me in being able to do that. Then I could go after some of those, some retail businesses and that sort of thing. Um, I spent a lot of time reading. I spent numerous hours. I think I've seen almost every episode. Sounds great. This is where I consider I got my business 101, honestly, about things that I learned about all the stuff I didn't know that I needed to know to have a business by watching Shark Tank. No joke. I watched, I think, almost every episode. I would binge watch them, and I learned so much from that of things I realized I didn't know that I needed to know if I was going to truly have a business and ever be profitable with this business idea I had. I also then, about a year and a half into my business, found out about the Small Business Development Center, and it's an SBA sponsored, program throughout the United States. And they have the Small Business Development Center offices located usually at different college campuses and universities and stuff. And so, anyways, I heard about that program and signed up and got a business advisor through that program who was fabulous at helping me understand and really fine tune what I was going to charge for my product. Like I was randomly coming up and guessing based on having shopped in allergy friendly food space for 13 years at that point. So I kind of knew what was out there, and I knew as a consumer what I might be willing or not willing to pay for certain things. So knowing that and really starting to get a good understanding and handle on what the market would allow for a product like mine to be sold pricing wise. And so that was early on. One of the things with Jack, we really started focusing on and working on was how was I going to fairly price the product? And I learned all about the costs and how that worked out for profit and margins and all that kind of stuff. And so early on, started working on that kind of stuff, working on a business plan. I did not have a business plan. I honestly, my business plan did not really come together and be finalized until 2018. Like it took me the longest time to really create my plan because when I started, I just immediately jumped right into the idea of, okay, I was coming up with new products. So here's the other thing is, so we have 7 different varieties of our products now in 2 sizes. And initially when I started, I just had one product, this known as the Classic Bites, that was made with semi-sweet chocolate. And it's a little sweet and crunchy rice-based snack that we make. And the 2 days before my first event, this is going back to November 2015, my boyfriend at the time suggested, or he's still my boyfriend now, but my boyfriend said, what if you were to make this with dark chocolate? And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And we tried it and I loved it. I loved it more than my Classic Bites. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is great. So all of a sudden I had 2 products like to sell at that first little church bazaar event that I was going to be selling my stuff at. And then after that, like a few months later, that is one of our top sellers still. Are selling these 3 products, people started making suggestions, and my kids especially. That's the great thing is I kind of have my own little test market within my own home because my products really are taste tested and kid approved. And my kids can be they can be very blunt. They don't always have a filter, which is a good thing. And will just straight shoot me with
They're very picky as well and very particular with certain type of food.
exactly. And my kids are especially. And so they really would give me the thumbs up or thumbs down, and they would give me feedback of what they liked or didn't like about certain things. And so when I wanted to start expanding and having some other varieties to choose from, I basically I did this several different times. I would make up several, maybe 3 to 5 different types of products or different versions or different flavors or different whatever. And I would put them in containers unmarked, and I would just put numbers on the containers, and I would take them to work, and I usually had about somewhere between 75 to 100 people each time blind taste test the product. And they would write on a piece of paper what flavor what they tasted, what they thought it was, whether they liked it or didn't like it. And then I would have them rank the choices they were presented with. So if there was 5 they were trying that day, they would rank all 5 of them. And if there was 3, they would rank the 3. And that truly was like the best. And that is something, again, in the future, as we keep growing and adding more products. And I know lots of people do this in food business and stuff, but that was one of those things early on that I started doing in the beginning of our business, just because I did not want to think that my taste buds were the perfect taste. Like what I think is great to everybody. And I really learned a lot and grew a lot as a business, personally and professionally, doing these studies like I would do with both, people I worked with, my kids, my family, my friends. And that is what really drove to, like, the products we currently sell now were all because they were suggestions by my kids, or my boyfriend. And then they were also basically given thumbs up, or, they were thumbs up by all these, 100 other people who were like, I like this one and this is why. A perfect example, though, of the benefit of doing this was, so we have one called Lemony Bites, and it's made with white chocolate and lemon. And it took me 4 attempts to finally nail the perfect taste combination for that one. I'll never forget the first time my son, my 16-year-old, when he tasted it, the first time I made it, I thought, oh my gosh, when I tasted it, I was like, oh, it reminds me of lemon bars. Like, I was so excited. I was like, oh, I think this is it. This is so great. I love it. This is going to be my new favorite. And then my son tried it and he was like, ew, it tastes like soap. And I went, what? I was like, we're not going for soap here. We're going for food, lemon, So I redid it. I redid the formula, the recipe, tried it again, took it to work. Some people were like, it was 4 different versions before I finally got it to where everybody loved it. It was like, this is it. This is perfect. Not too much of this, not too much of that. Doesn't have a funny aftertaste, whatever. I was like, oh my gosh. So anyway, so that's kind of some of the backstory to like the evolution, I guess, of our products, if you will, how they've, over time come into play. And some of the other things I think that's helped us, like with what you, some of the other things you asked me to address, like the marketing of our product and things like that. So we had joined one of the food organization called the Specialty Food Association. And I had applied to be part of that group. I'd heard about it through networking from someone else, that this might be a good organization to be part of. So I applied, went through their process to be accepted. And that was like in the spring of, it was like March of 2017. Oh my goodness, I guess 3 years ago. Time flies. And so they approved me to be in the organization, and they are the organization that puts on this. They put on 2 huge international trade shows called the Fancy Food Show. They do one in San Francisco in the winter, like in January, and then they do a huge one at the Javits Center in New York City in the summer, the end of June. And so I get approved to be in this group. It's like the end of March, and they, at the time, at this food show in New York City, quite a few of the states from the United States would have what they would call little state pavilions. And there'd be a grouping of food businesses from their state that would all be kind of put together. Their booths would all be in a group together. And so it just so happened that for the state of Kansas, they still had 1 booth left that nobody had rented. And it was a sold out show. There was like a waiting list of like 50 people before my name if I wanted to go to the show that summer. So I was like, and the only way you can be in the show is you have to be a member of this organization. So I knew, again, early on that, trade shows, eventually I was going to want and need to be in trade shows because that would get me a lot more publicity. That'd be a good platform for us to be part of, to network and get seen by some of the businesses and people we needed to be discovered by to help grow our business. So they had actually contacted from the land of Kansas, that organization here. It's a trademark organization for our state that works with businesses that are food-based businesses, farmers, food manufacturers, that sort of thing here in Kansas. So they contacted them and said, hey, have you heard of a company called Safely Delicious? They just became a member, and you guys still have a booth available for the show. Maybe they might be interested in it. So looking at the situation, said they were going to reach out to From the Land of Kansas. From the Land of Kansas contacted me and asked me if I was interested in the booth. I was like, absolutely, I'll take the booth. I had no idea how much the booth was. I had no idea. Again, there's so many things about my business that I blindly jumped into, having a whole lot of faith that it just feels like this is what I need to do next. This feels like the right thing. I think God's leading me down this is the path I should be going on. Agreed to be at the show. And I had just started about the month before working with my business advisor, Jack. And so I remember going to my next meeting with him going, okay, I have a trade show I need to, that I'm going to be participating in. And it's in like 10 weeks. And initially when I started my company, my product was sold in little white bakery bags, or like they look like little white coffee bags with a little window on the front. And I would print out my stickers and sticker them pretty and what have you. And so now, because I'm going to go to this international trade show, I remember being like, I need to look like I belong at that show. Like my product looks like it could hold its own on a grocery store shelf right next to other companies like Enjoy Life Foods and Make Good and Kinnikuk and or Kinnikinuk and just all those wonderful allergy-friendly food brands that I was a customer to. Now I'm trying to get my products to be out there amongst theirs and find customers as well. And so very, very quickly, I was like, I got connected with a local printing a broker that worked with a printing company, and they got me connected with a graphic designer. And within a very short, quick amount of time, I was able to, with the graphic designer, create and design what our packaging, what you see our packaging is now. Our packaging now has been tweaked a couple of times since the original versions, but still with that same teal as our primary main focus and color. So I knew that was a critical color. It had already been incorporated in a lot of my things prior to my packaging. So I definitely wanted to stay with that theme. And we showed up for the trade show, to the fancy food show. And at that time, all I had were prototypes of my bags. I didn't even have the money yet to to get the bags made, to get my packaging made. But I was like, I'm going to go to the show, and I'm going to find business there. And once I get my business and I get some orders, then we'll order the bags. And so sure enough, on the last day of the show, some of the Ball Foods grocery store management, they are a large family-owned grocery store chain here, Kansas City. People were at the show in New York City, and they happened to stop by my booth at the end of the show. And I got discovered in New York in order to be finally available in grocery stores here back in the Kansas City area where I live. So that was definitely worth going to that trade show. And that was really what kind of, that started my, that was definitely a major turning point in my business. That would be one of my first major turning points for our business, was that discovery in New York City. And that got us finally into the path of being in grocery stores and getting into retail, getting into big retail.
What a journey.
Thank you.
What a journey you have encountered to ensure that you have developed a product just for your children, and then to share that with the community, and then to share that with United States of America. That is just so amazing.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate what you did. Now, I want you to tell me, what were your personal, professional, and financial struggles that you had to go through?
Well, personal struggles was time management of trying to do this business, because I was still working my full-time job at the church when I started this business, and had continued. So I'm starting this business, and I work, I go work at the church every, Monday through Friday, from 8:30 to 3. And then I go pick up my kids. I do my mom duties, and then, do kid activities, meals, homework, what have you. And then by 7:30 at night, 8 o'clock, depending on what was going on, I would then be working on my business. So I'd work all day, do my kids for a few hours, and then I would work Safely Delicious pretty much every night from like 8 to 1 in the morning, sometimes 2. I'm like, I would just then work all night. And so it was almost like I was working like a 70-hour plus work week every week, because I was trying to do both things, and I needed to do both things because I couldn't afford to quit my day job when I started my business. I couldn't. And so, and I kept doing that life like that for 3.5 years before I finally reached a point where I needed to start giving those 70 hours a week needed to all be to Safely Delicious, because some of those, the critical times of the day that I needed to be meeting with people and talking to people on the phone and really getting out there and selling my products and getting our brand out there, or daytime hours. And those hours I was, busy doing my day job at the church to keep the roof over my head. So that was a personal struggle, definitely, and for a while. But my kids were great and, would step in and help me when needed. And they all can at any time if needed. Even now, if I need I need an extra set of hands to help with production or packaging or whatever, they can come in and they know how to do all that with. And so that's been really great. But the financial part of it, also as well, when I being, being divorced and not really, having that security of somebody else's income, if you will, I needed to, in order to start moving forward with my business, I started using my savings and have still had to this day. My savings, unfortunately, is almost depleted, but I have great faith that this business is going to one day, hopefully sooner than later, will hit a point where all of that money that I used from my savings that was supposed to one day be, help towards my retirement, but I don't think we ever retire as a mom or as a woman, honestly. But, having that cushion, you know, I look forward to one day being able to replace that cushion and then some. But then, so that was, though, a financial struggle for me because that with which was supposed to be my safety net, I was using it to have this business, to get this business going. And then also, not having, early on, because it's different industries are funny this way, where if you're in a tech industry, technology, you have some type of, high tech, you have an idea, even like getting investors and getting even financing for certain types of businesses is a lot. It's not easy. None of it's easy, but it tends to be, I think, a little bit more accessible than, say, myself trying to start a food business and having to show my proof of concept and having to show sales and revenue and having to prove and show that people actually are going to pay for this and they're going to buy it and I'm going to make money at this. So no one would give me a loan. It took me, I didn't finally get my first loan until last spring, a year ago. I received, it just so happened that there is an organization, they would provide capital money, startup money, if you will. It was, I think, around like $20,000, which every bit helps a business when you're starting. That program only existed on the Missouri side, and so I'm on Kansas. So then, interestingly, last January, their program, it's called AltCap, they became available on the Kansas side. So I immediately met with them, applied, and received my first, outside money because, like I said, I had been using my own savings. I had opened up several business credit card accounts, and that was how I was basically funding my business for that first 3 years, really. And then, or longer, until last spring. And then um, the month after I got that loan from AltCap, I had been trying to get an SBA loan since the fall of 2018, and then when the government shut down, like the loan process stopped. And when it finally the government opened again, because my loan had been quote unquote in process for more than 90 days, I had to start the process all over again. I thought that, I remember just, I sat at my work desk and bawled. I was like, cause getting an SBA loan, it comes close to almost like giving your firstborn child to them. It is one of the longest, most painful processes to get an SBA loan. It is. And interestingly now, because of the whole coronavirus thing, they've got disaster loans available that businesses can be applying for. That is fabulous and great. And our business is looking to apply for one of those. And those, supposedly the turnaround time will be like a couple, 2 to 4 weeks. And they don't even need half as much info as they needed the first go around to get just your standard SBA loan. So anyway, but my SBA loan, we had to start the process all over again. And it was awarded to us then a month after the alt cap loan. And so that was kind of then I was able to finally, in getting that money, be able to take care of some of the business debts we'd accrued by that point. At that time, I was able to purchase some commercial equipment to help with our packaging process, because everything we do manually. So that was a real lifesaver to, get some of that, and then also afford to now with that loan help us buy, increase packaging, increase the amount of ingredients we could purchase in larger quantity, more bulk quantity, which then would bring our costs down, because the cost for the ingredients then would go down because I was purchasing larger amounts of ingredients and little things like that. So all those kinds of things, the personal and the business, the financial stuff, starting a business is not for, the weak or faint heart. I mean, it really, it's, you have to be, both feet have to be in if you really want your business to work. And know that, like for myself, there are some days where it really stinks and that we're losing accounts. I hopefully not permanently, but right now, like orders aren't happening because businesses are closed right now. And so of course they're closed, our products aren't selling, they don't need to place an order. So, businesses, no matter, I think your businesses is going to ebb and flow, and the financial stuff is going to go up, down, and all around. And it's just being committed to staying on the path and just keep looking forward. Like I've sometimes when I've spoken to groups and I share with the group that I'm speaking to, for me, I have to be what I consider like a Clydesdale, where I've got these blinders on both sides of my face and I can only see forward. That way I don't get distracted by what's going to the left or right of me, because if I stop looking forward, that's where then you fall off track. You fall off your focus, and those other things can very easily pull you in the wrong direction, or really, kind of pull you down, and can cause you to lose momentum and lose your focus and just lose your desire or excitement that is, your passion of what's driving you forward. So I'm like, I just need to remind myself I'm a Clydesdale. I got my blinders on and we're only looking forward, and I can only see forward.
I have to tell you, I really admire your spirit and I really admire your determination.
Thank you.
Um, you basically answered everything that I was gonna ask you.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you really answered basically everything because you explained. Because like I was gonna ask
Okay.
her that, I was like, oh, she just
Oh.
got right into it. Just got right into it. Has the coronavirus affect your personal and professional life in any way?
It has, on both areas. With the business side of things, unfortunately, with businesses that our products are, so many of the businesses our products are sold in right now are temporarily closed, so we don't have those channels of revenue are not happening right now. And so still trying to be creative, trying to work on improving our efforts or presence. So like um, safelydelicious.com is an online store. And so we can ship products all over the United States. And then we're also on Amazon. That's fairly new for us in the last couple of months. So our products are sold on Amazon. And I think, how are they listed? I think it's just Safely Delicious Snacks. I think we pop up now for in the beginning, because being a new product on the site, I think it was a little challenging for people to find our products, but now they're popping up and people are finding them and people are buying them. So that's a great, awesome opportunity for us, as trying to kind of find some, okay, there's a silver lining over here. Right when coronavirus was hitting, we were onboarding Amazon. So it's like, okay, hopefully that will help, and that will maybe hopefully make up for some of the deficits, some of the other stuff we have with the personal side of things. For that, living, where I live in Johnson County in Kansas, we are, I forget what the term is, but basically this past Tuesday, they on March 24th, unless you were an essential business, all businesses were required to be closed now. And and unless we have to go to one of those essential businesses for something essential, we are supposed to, that whole social distancing thing, but we're supposed to like stay home, social distance. Like we are not, and our kids' schools in the state of Kansas were all, the kids won't be returning to their school buildings for the remainder of the school year. So we're doing the whole, our school, my son's high school is, got the kids all set up to do virtual learning. They're doing Zoom learning, or they're meeting with their teachers and their classmates through Zoom videos now. And my youngest son, his school will start their virtual learning program stuff next Monday. So that will start for him. And so, having the kids around 24/7 and me here 24/7 is a little different. It's not bad, I'll be honest. It actually, for myself, being so busy with my business, and then I have, two active young men, I should call them. They, involved with their sports teams, and my 16-year-old was working, had a part-time job as well, played on a school tennis team, and my younger son does soccer and has activities with school. And so it's like that, what I talked about earlier with, I would work all day and then I'd stop and do the kid thing and then work all night. That's still, up until coronavirus, was still my life. Just my morning and afternoons were filled with Safely Delicious instead of St. Michael's. I still have to stop at 3, go pick up kids from school, run them to work, run them to sports, run, come home, do dinner, homework, whatever. And then most days I'm, back at my work desk working till, midnight or 1 a.m. So that part of my life was still going on. So with coronavirus, I don't have to do that. I actually get to see my bed more like at maybe 10 or 11 o'clock at night now. And I am being able to, I'm being able to sit down and have dinner like every night with my boys, where we were a lot of times always eating on the fly, and, maybe only had a meal, the 3 of us together. I was finding myself getting to an exhausted state of like, how long am I, I feel like I'm running a marathon, a sprint mode. That's how I was feeling. And so this intentional break that we have to be doing, this mandatory break, I think has actually been a good thing, at least for me personally, because it's allowed me to slow down, and even things with my business. It's allowed me time to step back and almost kind of like repivot a little bit and not feel so overwhelmed as I was starting. I think I really was starting to feel that right around the time when all this stuff started hitting, and I was feeling like I was getting pulled in my business. And so right now, this has been actually okay to have to stay put for, even if it's just a couple weeks. It's a good thing.
That is the best advice you could ever give to someone who is going through the situation right now, because you can't just rush everything, and then if you rush certain things, then you make a lot of mistakes, and you continuously make a lot of mistakes, you fail every time. So it's best to slow down. I agree with that.
Yes. So I like that I've been forced to slow down, because some of the choices or some of the things I've had to now think about or reconsider or even do slightly different in my business, but it's happening sooner than later, and that feels great. It feels yeah, like things are, when this is all over, I feel like our business is going to still be in a really great place. The financial part of it, the revenue part of it, not so great, but I think if I take care of some of these other things right now, then that will allow, when that part, we can finally be more, out there physically, and the stores are open again and that sort of thing, then I can really focus and dive in on that, knowing some of the other stuff that I really needed to be getting done. Or, I have certain things in place now that that can just, naturally keep moving forward, and I don't still create certain things.
What is your neighborhood situation like since the coronavirus stepped in?
So yes, I mean, like here, where I live, most of the businesses are closed right now. So it's kind of eerie when if I do have to go up to the grocery store to grab something, it's, it feels just slightly strange, because you don't see cars everywhere and in all the parking lots, and, and you do see, interestingly, there's a lot more people, I mean, everybody's doing the social distancing thing, but you see you see kids in their yards playing, or you see kids out riding their bikes, like you see people out walking, like not groups of, a person or two people. There's just you. It's almost like you see people, like as much as because people are kind of stuck home and might be more on their devices at the same time because people can't go and do all the things they were able to do and were used to doing. They're finding new ways of new things to do with their time. And it's just 2 in the afternoon and you see adults out taking walks, like because they can't go to their office. And if they're working from home, they're going to take a break, maybe in the middle of the day, and just go outside and get some fresh air and then come back to their desk and get back on their computer and work some more. So seeing things like that has been, it's been actually pretty cool seeing stuff like that. But even you know, when I look at my social media accounts and, my friends that, live near me that are, in my feed and talking about stuff that's, their stuff, their family stuff and their lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. I've actually seen, I think, more positive things. Like there's not, I mean, I think initially people are like, oh my gosh, this is like, this is just going to be horrible. But then I've been seeing more and more people posting like the positive things of it's like, okay, well, we just have to resign ourselves to this is what it is. And this is how things are going to be. And this is our new norm right now. This is everyone's life right now. So what good can come out of it? What are different things we're doing that feel like a positive for ourselves personally or for our family? So that's been really kind of cool. I think everybody, I don't say everybody, but most people I think are kind of taking a little pause and as I have, like I just shared, of just what this experience has been for me personally. And I think a lot of people are having that same experience as well, which is good. And hopefully, when this is over, I think how people if they really take some of these new norms and they incorporate some of it or any of it into their lives moving forward, like how much more peaceful, how much more stressful might it be for all of us? How it will be towards each other or with each other because of how gracious everyone's being now because we're all in this together.
We know the coronavirus is really affecting every aspect of our lives right now.
Yes.
What advice would you give with a parent who has a child with food allergies?
Well, I think one of the challenges, probably even more so now than before, is having access to some of those foods that maybe were a little more accessible or more, a lot of businesses, smaller businesses, or even grocery stores that maybe had a lot of those kinds of products. They might be limited, or maybe the companies that they're coming from because of how the coronavirus maybe has affected or impacted them. It's kind of a trickle down, I think, how it could potentially, unfortunately, end up affecting a family that has food allergies. And so it might be that you find yourself more so during this time having to be really creative about, making things you might normally do, just run out to the store and buy and pick up. And then the other thing, too, is I think it can be equally scary, what's going on with the virus, and then somebody who does have food allergies, because the thing sometimes with food allergies is it does, in fact, there is a connection to, at least I've seen it with my own kids, we're making sure their immune systems are being taken care of because having those food allergies, sometimes, it's almost like the two kind of can go hand in hand where if your body's already struggling and trying to deal with an allergen, then it kind of draws energy away from something else within your body. So I think it's really important to make sure, especially those that have the food allergies, are taking care of themselves, whether it's kids or even adults. You are getting enough sleep and you are drinking enough water and you really are staying as strict to your diet as you can. Because I know, like with my own kids, and I've seen this, prior to coronavirus, like my youngest son, who he needs to avoid dairy. Dairy does not get along with him. And I can always tell when he's been cheating and having it, or even, having it to the point where it's like his skin will start to, he starts to get really scaly, bumpy skin, and then he starts to kind of get almost this rash on his face. But then what'll happen is because of the dairy, and then it causes, the congestion and the phlegm and all kinds of other stuff for him. then that, because of now he has the excess of that, it was triggered because of the dairy. Half the time he ends up developing a cold and then actually gets sick with an actual cold because he has attacked his immune system by attacking it with these food allergens he should have been avoiding. So I think, it's really important to make sure that, some of those dietary restrictions that that you adhere to and you try to follow prior to the coronavirus, you're especially trying to stick to right now so that people's immune systems can stay top performing and can stay at their best point. So not to, put themselves at risk of developing, everything seems so scary. It could just be a cold, but people worry like, okay, well, the symptoms you have, I mean, it's very clearly defined what symptoms are flu versus cold versus coronavirus. But yet initially, when somebody first starts not feeling good, our minds will all race to worrying and watching and making sure, okay, are these symptoms going to be coronavirus symptoms? Are they flu symptoms? Or is it just your standard cold? Or are they just having a reaction to something they shouldn't be?
So we're going to go into another section, and it's called the reverse interview section, where you, as a guest, are going to ask me a question.
Do you personally have any food allergies? And what has been your own personal experience, either with yourself or anyone close to you that also has food allergies?
Well, I have only a cheese allergy,
Okay.
just tin cheese. But I have been eating the tin cheese, but I've been avoiding the consequences of eating the tin cheese. But, I've just come to the realization now that whenever I eat the tin cheese, it causes my sinus to block up. So I can't breathe through my nose, and then I have to breathe through my mouth. And that's a terrible thing because they say that once you breathe through your mouth, then you're going to develop a heart condition later on in life. So I'm trying to avoid, as of now, the tin cheese. So I'm focusing more off of vegetarian cheese or lactose-free, dairy-free cheese at the moment.
Okay. And does that seem to be helping?
Yeah, man, it's really helping. I'm breathing better and I have no problems ever since.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's interesting about the breathing through the mouth thing. I did not realize that.
I think I researched it some time ago, and there was a section that said if you breathe through your mouth, it's gonna cause a problem with your
And
heart. So
as you get older, it can cause a problem. But that's
right,
very interesting. Wow. Okay. Something else I need to be. I need to share that with friends and family.
and especially when I'm sleeping and people are snoring, then that can cause a heart condition as well.
And what kind of heart condition does it cause, or can it cause?
Well, I'm not sure about the type of heart condition, but probably like heart palpitations or those kind of stuff.
Okay. And so, what inspired you to, to create the podcast that you're doing, and to be known as the Insightful Nutrition on social media and all that awesome stuff? Like, what inspired you, and how did you get started deciding this was what you wanted to do?
I think what really inspired me to start the podcast was the fact that I can just acknowledge to myself that yes, I have an allergy, but then I wanted to find out if there are other persons with serious allergies. So I wanted to kind of create a podcast around that. So I wanted to advocate for those persons. And the really surprising thing is that no one is doing a podcast that kind of they're living with allergies, but they're not focusing on how can they bring a person who created an allergy-free product, and how is it that they were able to make it, and what struggles they were going through before that. And I thought that would be a creative way to enhance the podcast or the niche in that manner. That's what inspired me to start a podcast.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's awesome. I think it's great what you're doing.
Thank you
Absolutely
so much.
wonderful. Yes, very, very cool. And you're right. It is kind of an area that there's not a whole lot of, if any. Like you said, you found this need, you found an opportunity, and I think it's wonderful that you felt called to to do something with that, because there's a lot of people out there that can really learn and benefit from, all the different people that you will interview and share their stories about, that will help other people that are, living with food allergies as well.
And the fact that I'm not working right now, so I kind of want to use that time to kind of occupy myself,
Sure.
to avoid getting in trouble with people. So
No, it's a good use of your time.
I just want to make use of my ample time, and so what that does is that it occupies my time. I learn a lot. As a matter of fact, I am learning a whole lot about this food allergy niche because I never knew that anybody could be allergic to ketchup and mustard and corn and rice. There's so many allergies out there that people are allergic to, and I wouldn't even know that it exists. I know about the wheat because people can develop celiac disease, but I never knew that there would be other food allergies there specifically that people are allergic to. And I wanted to learn more about it. I'm fascinated by it, and it just took me on a roller coaster to say, you know what? Let me do this podcast because I think this is a great opportunity for me to get and to just really take it, talk to persons who have created the product, what allergies they have been going through to create the product, how is it that they have been managing. And this is a great opportunity for me to showcase that ability that I can share, that I can listen to, that I can learn from.
Right. No, I think it's wonderful. It's awesome. Thank you for doing that for all of us who have food allergies.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Any other question?
Oh, sure. I ask you lots more. So where you live in Jamaica, do you find that purchasing allergy-friendly products in your community, is that something that's pretty much a standard, like they're fairly easy and accessible where you live, or is it very finite and there's only specific places? Like here in the United States, most grocery stores have sections in their store where you can find, gluten-free products or nut-free or, allergy-friendly things. And so what is it like in Jamaica?
Well, let's just say that Jamaica is not. Well, they talk about allergies as a personal issue, but it's not more of a national issue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not being recognized. It's been underestimated to me.
Okay.
The products, they can be found in the more expensive supermarkets in Jamaica, so people can get access to those products. I think there's the cheese, the Go Veggie brand is there in Shoppers Fair.
Okay.
There are persons who found bread. There are persons who found oats. There's some products that are allergy free in the most expensive supermarket, but it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because I recently found a lady, she's a journalist, and she's been diagnosed to have rheumatoid arthritis, and she has to be on a gluten-free diet.
Yes, that is very common. I think some of those, again, it's that whole autoimmune system thing, that when your body is being attacked by certain allergens, be it environmental or food, it can wreak havoc on your autoimmune system and create different illnesses. So, food can be either good medicine for your body or bad medicine for your body.
Yeah, that's the only issue that I have with Jamaica not giving more access to gluten-free products. And they can be very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Very expensive because based on the foreign exchange.
Okay.
Based on the foreign exchange, with the Jamaican currency, it can be very expensive on our end. Mm-hmm. So because they're importing more products overseas than to export, then there is a higher foreign currency on our end. So we basically have to stretch the dollar. So we have to really take time spending how much we bought of this allergy-free product and then try to squeeze that and see if we can stretch it to at least 2 weeks type of thing. So that's the challenge with buying food allergy-free products. We can buy it online and so forth. I know it's online. It's on Amazon.
Right.
But we have to basically be careful of our spending habits and so forth.
Well, the
So
shipping I would think would be expensive.
yeah, it
Even if you're
is.
buying it on Amazon, that can get you. The shipping could cost you maybe almost as much as the products.
Right, especially with the courier service, their shipping fee is very expensive. The tax is very high when it comes down to
Wow.
buying products from online. So
Right.
I think there's the caution there is to just be careful
Mm-hmm.
how much of that product that you spend, or you can.
Right.
Well, some persons buy through the mail,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be kind of it's not really dangerous, but it kind of can be kind of risky because some of the products that we buy, the the mail office,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they don't have that kind of material to hold the amount of allergy-free products that you're buying. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And do you have any friends or family that also have food allergies?
Well, I think well, I have friends that have allergies, but I think I don't remember right now. That's a
Oh, no,
sad
that's
thing.
okay.
The sad thing is I don't remember. I know that I know the reaction that they get from the food allergy, but I don't remember
Sure.
the specific allergen. I think my
Right.
friend, she's in England. She's the reason why the podcast is named In Self Nutrition. Uh,
Huh.
she has eczema, and that can be one of the consequences of kind of the food allergies. So
Yes. Definitely. I see that with my kids. Absolutely. And even
yeah,
myself.
when someone eats a particular food, then
Mm-hmm.
she can develop eczema and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So she has to be critical of how she manages it, like with creams and so forth.
Right. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Well, if there was that one thing that you would want your listeners, what would be one thing like to know about you or about your business? What would be like if you had one thing to say about Nicole that would be a takeaway, or like advice or some big thought? What would you have for your listeners?
I take life serious,
Mm-hmm.
especially up to today. I take life serious. Sometimes I will laugh at so forth, a little joke here and there, but I take life serious. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
at this point during the coronavirus time, we have to have thick skin, like serious thick skin, because people can say anything,
Mm-hmm.
and when we react, sometimes things can happen. So I used to behave like that, and you know what I realize that I'm a late bloomer, so I have to really say, you know what, change that, develop thick skin, because when you have thick skin, it saves your life better than to just react to something that you shouldn't have reacted to in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to develop thick skin, be serious, stay by yourself, stop getting involved in a company that doesn't help you or help in a way that it helps you to mature and grow as a person. So I think that's what I'm doing at this point. And that's the thing that I know about me, that I love to learn. So once I learn something, I just
Mm-hmm.
practice it,
Mm-hmm.
get into the habit of it. And that's what I think what listeners should know about me.
Well, I think that's a wonderful thing that they should know about you. And I did actually listen to your first podcast where yes, about Nicole to better understand who this wonderful host was going to be of this podcast. And I loved hearing about your background and your journey and just how you have evolved and what's brought you to this point. So I think you are an amazing young woman, and you've just got great passion and excitement and desire about you're passionate about, and you can tell with what you're doing. So thank you for that. I think it's awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that you mentioned you listened to my first one, because
Oh, absolutely.
that was a whole lot to say, to open up about my journey, because Normally, for me, I don't open up at all. I just get silent. And
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned in my first episode, I had a speech impediment. So it was difficult for me to open up because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say foolishness. I really don't want to, and it makes me look like a fool. So I kind of tend to be silent and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So once a teacher wrote on my report that I'm too quiet, I was like a little bit offended because you're
Right.
supposed to report on the person's academic performance and not on the behavior. So if a teacher wrote on somebody else's report that they talk too much in class and all of that, I mean, what's the difference? I don't see what's the difference.
Right. Because it's about your academics. Are you doing well, and are you putting forth effort, or are you not paying attention and slacking off and not getting your work done? That seems a little bit different than some people are extroverts and some people are introverts. And as long as you're a good student, that shouldn't matter whether you're quiet or talkative.
For me, I think it's the matter of the teacher. She wants to push something out of me or she wants me to be like
Mhm.
her. But I am not that person who's going to be brawling, for instance, and just talk anything and say anything and, make her look like an embarrassment. So I'm not that type of person. I don't want to embarrass myself. It doesn't feel good to be embarrassed. So I love to keep my composure at a distance. So I just don't really think that I should be like everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I believe in. Uniqueness and being different. You don't have to be the same as someone
Mm-hmm.
else. Because if you're trying to be the same as somebody else, how is it going to benefit you as a person?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
How is it going to benefit you as a person? I mean, I try to be like somebody. It doesn't make me feel good and it doesn't really make me propel. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really propel me to move forward in life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, just be myself. I know who I am and I know what I'm about. I know what I can do. I'm different from this other person who doesn't do what I do.
Right.
She doesn't think like I think. We have different things. So I don't really need a crowd of people to talk to and to talk the same thing. So
Right.
I'm okay being different. I'm okay being unique because that's what makes me me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Well, and I agree with you 100%. Absolutely. And those that are confident in who they are, they're the ones that will rise above and will always succeed because they have that much belief in themselves. So I think that's wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Well, I don't have any more questions for you.
All
Do you have
right.
anything more for me?
No, I don't think
Okay.
I have any for you. I think you basically answered everything. Even if I didn't
Wonderful.
ask you, you just went right into it. And that's what I love about you. You just
Oh,
went right
thanks.
into it. I asked you a general question. It's like you went into the solution already. What is it that you're doing about it? And I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this has been great fun.
Yes, yes, it is. It has been so much fun from morning and then until this evening. We had so much fun, despite the internet connection on my side.
Right. Yeah. No problem.
Where can listeners find you on social media?
So, Safely Delicious, we have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter handle, which would be Safely Delicious. We are on Instagram as Safely Delicious. We are on LinkedIn, Safely Delicious, and we also are on Pinterest, Safely Delicious. So real original. We were again, like I shared early on in my story, when I decided that would be the name, I went out there and grabbed our name on everything. So, and then we also have our website where it's just safelydelicious.com. And that is our website. It's also an online store so people can purchase products, and we ship them to the continental USA. And then our products are also on Amazon. And so people can find safely delicious snacks on Amazon as well.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this. I really appreciate it. And I've enjoyed this time with you, Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that you are a super mom, you are a super businesswoman, and it shows throughout your products and it shows throughout your journey. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming, to really take the time to come and share the journey with us. And it has been such an amazing journey.
Thank you. Well, thank you for this time, and thank you for giving me this platform and opportunity to do that. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
You are so welcome. So that's the end of today's episode. But wait. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Insightful Nutrition Podcast. If you like the show, be sure to not forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcast. This will help listeners like you to find and share the show with your friends and family. Allow the show to become more searchable and help with Apple Podcast rankings. I appreciate you so much for tuning in to today's episode, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Bye-bye for now.